Hello everyone, especially to my students in the disciplines and ideas of social sciences. Our topic for today is the emergence of the social science discipline. Our learning competency explain the major events and its contribution that led to the emergence of the social science disciplines. Our objectives identify the pioneer, father of its discipline, discuss the historical foundations and social context that led to the development of its discipline, define the various social science disciplines, expound the nature of its field of social science, discuss the methods of inquiry for its field of social science. Now, let's talk about anthropology. The father or pioneer of anthropology is Edward Burnett Taylor. He is an English cultural anthropologist, first to hold the chair in the subject at Oxford University in the UK in 1896, coined the term culture, wrote researches into the early history of mankind and the development of civilization, published in 1865. Historical foundation of anthropology traces its roots from natural history, which is the study of plants, animals, and humans with reference to their history and native environment. The discovery and contact to new civilizations by European explorers and colonizers led to curiosity and questions of who these people are, who their ancestors were, how they are related to other people in other places, what makes them distinct, what similarities they share with the rest, how they conduct their way of life, and what culture they have in terms of knowledge they possess, their beliefs, technology that they have, etc. It was only in the 19th century that the discipline began its formative years as a social science, though since the ancient times there were already many illustrations, chronicles, and travelogues containing descriptions of human culture and civilizations. Etymology. Anthropology is from the Greek words anthropos, which means man, and logos, which means to study. Definition of anthropology. It is a branch of knowledge which deals with the scientific study of man, his works, his body, his behavior, and values in time and space. It is the exploration and study of human diversity around the world. It gathers and analyzes data on cross-cultural and inter-societal differences in social institutions, cultural beliefs and practices, and communication styles. It is a discipline of infinite curiosity about human being. It discovers when, where, and why humans appeared on Earth, how and why they have changed since then, and how and why modern human populations vary in a certain physical features. It exposes how and why societies in the past and present have varied in their customs, traditions, and practices. What are the branches of anthropology? Number 1. Biological anthropology. Study of man's biological foundations, race, evolution, genetic inheritance, racial classifications, human adaptability and variation, the fossil records of human evolution, as well as forensic studies. Racial history, study of the nature of races. Paleontology, study of fossils. Human genetics, study of various ways of inheritance that take place in man. Primatology, study of primates and hominids. Neuroanthropology, study of the evolution of the human brain. Human osteology, study of skeletal materials. Forensic anthropology, analysis and identification of human remains. Cultural anthropology, investigation of the cultural and social organization of a particular people. Ethnography describes the culture of an ethnic group. Ethnology analyzes and compares culture of people and how these cultures develop and change. Archaeology, study of man's culture and society in the prehistoric times. Linguistics, study of recorded and unrecorded languages all over the world. Methods of inquiry in anthropology. Ethnographic method. Participant researcher mainly conducts first-hand observation and immersion in human activities in a particular sociocultural setting for the purpose of gaining an up-close and personal familiarity and understanding of the subjects being studied. Case study involves extensive and in-depth documentation and analysis of specific subject in focus at a smaller scale, which is mainly conducted by interview of informants, ocular inspection of location, and the comparison and analysis of available literature and databases. Descriptive method involves the systematic collection and analytic processing of statistical data by conducting a survey of a sample size of respondents in order to accurately describe a present existing sociocultural condition or situation. Historical method entails the reconstruction of events by piecing together evidences of the past and examining reliable records in order to trace and explain the development or transformation of a sociocultural situation, group, or community. Economics. The father and pioneer of economics is Adam Smith, founder of classical school, constructed an explanation on how social behavior is regulated, saw a world where each person sought their own self-interest but was constrained by morality, markets, and government, wrote Wealth of the Nations in 1776. Historical foundation of economics. It was not considered a separate discipline until the 19th century. Greeks examined wealth accumulation and inquiries on whether property should be in the hands of private or public institutions. In medieval times, scholars argued that it was a moral obligation of businesses to sell goods at a just price. Economic thought evolved through feudalism in the Middle Ages to mercantilist theory in the Renaissance when people were concerned to orient trade policy to further the national interest. Changes in economic thought have always accompanied changes in the economy, just as changes in economic thought can propel change economic policy. Etymology, it is from the Greek word oikonomia, which means household management. Definition of economics. It is the study of the proper allocation and efficient use of scarce resources to produce commodities for the maximum satisfaction of unlimited human needs and wants. It is the study of how societies use scarce resources to produce valuable commodities and distribute them among different people. It is the science of choice. It is the scientific study which deals with how individuals and society in general make choices. It is the study of how man could best allocate and utilize the scarce resources of society to satisfy his unlimited want. It is a branch of knowledge that deals with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Branches of economics. Macroeconomics deals with the behavior of economy as a whole with a view of understanding the interaction between economic aggregates such as employment, inflation, and national income. Microeconomics deals with the behavior of individual components such as household, firm, and individual owner of production. Methods of inquiry in economics. Positive economics. Explain what happens in the economy and why, without making any recommendations to economic policy. Or in simple idea, it deals with how the economy works. Normative economics employed to make value judgments about the economy and suggest solutions to economic problems. Geography. The father and pioneer of geography is Eratosthenes. He is a Greek geographer, became chief librarian at the Library of Alexandria, accepted the concept that the Earth is round and calculated its circumference to within 0.5% accuracy, described the known areas of the world, and divided the Earth into 5 climatic regions, prepared the earliest maps of the known world, founded scientific chronology. Historical foundation of geography. It is an ancient and honorable field of learning with its root firmly set in classical antiquity. People engage in the study of geography because it satisfies their natural curiosity about foreign places and different ways of life. The ancient Greeks made the first contribution to the subject through measuring the earth using grids and meridians. Etymology. It is from the Latin words geo, which means earth, and graphein, which means to describe. Definition of geography. It deals with Earth's description. It is the description and explanation of the world's landscapes and a scientific description of inhabited landscapes and their description over the globe. It is the study of spatial relationships whose subject matter includes physical, biotic, and societal elements and focuses on the distribution and relationships of phenomena according to places. It is the accurate, orderly, and rational description and interpretation of the variable character of the Earth's surface. It is the science of the Earth and its life dealing with land, sea, and air conditions, the distribution of plant and animal life, especially with man and his industries. It is the collection of facts intended to give a complete picture of a continent, a state, or a region. It is the study of the phenomena, how its distribution came about, and the significance of its distribution to an understanding of the world. It is the study of locations and distributions of phenomena on the Earth's surface, the reasons or causes behind these distributions, and predictions on how and why changes will take place. Branches of geography. Physical geography describes and studies the surface features of the Earth. Human geography describes and studies what human beings do in and on land and water. Methods of inquiry in geography. Descriptive geography. Specify the locations of features and populations. Analytical geography asks why we find features and populations in a specific geographic area. Geostatistics applies statistical methodology to the exploration of geographic phenomena. Ethnographic geography uses participant observation and in-depth interviews to provide qualitative data. History. The father and pioneer of history is Herodotus. He is a Greek historian, treated historical subjects as a method of investigation, collected historical materials systematically and critically and arranged them into historiographic narrative, wrote histories, which is the record of ancient traditions and culture of Greece, Asia, and Africa. Historical foundation of history. Influences of ancient Greeks have helped spawn variant interpretations of the nature of history which have evolved over the centuries and continue to change today. The groundwork for professional historiography in East Asia was established by the Han Dynasty. Through the medieval and Renaissance periods, history was often studied through a sacred or religious perspectives. In the West, historians developed modern methods of historiography in the 17th and 18th centuries, especially in France and Germany. In the 20th century, academic historians focused less on epic nationalistic narratives, which often tended to glorify the nation or great men, to more objective and complex analysis of social and intellectual forces. Recently, the field of digital history has begun to address ways of using computer technology to pose new questions to historical data and generate digital scholarships. Etymology. It is from the Greek word historia, which means knowing by inquiry. Definition of history. It is a systematic inquiry of man's recorded past for the purpose of establishing causal relationships, validating historical facts, and reconstruction of chronological events. It is the study of past events. It is the story of mankind's past. It records and explains what people have thought, said, and done. It is concerned with political, economic, and social matters. Branches of history. Political history deals with the narrative and analysis of political events, ideas, movements, organs of government, voters, parties, and leaders. Economic history analyzes economies or economic phenomena of the past using combination of historical methods, statistical methods, and application of economic theory to historical situations and institutions. Social history studies the experiences of ordinary people in the past. Positivism. Methods of inquiry in history. Positivism embraces human agency in history, uses sources to provide an accurate and complete vision of the past, also embraces an empathetic approach towards people in the past. Narrative chronology the creation of narratives of the past analysis plays less role as the role of accidents is most important. Biography, hagiography, the great man method which creates chronological narratives often look at the agency of one individual in history. Dialectics analysis, these are created which become orthodoxies. New theses then arrive to challenge this revisionism, and a synthesis is produced from the old and the new. The synthesis becomes the new thesis or paradigm, and the process of clashes. Dialectics repeats. Meta-narrative total history. Works of the analyst schools are characterized by a multi-layered approach which seek to integrate long-term, mid-term, and short-term factors in a total history. There is an effort to explain large amounts of human history through the application of theory and social sciences. Comparative studies of similar events in disparate places. Negativism rejects human agency in historical affairs, rejects all sources, rejects the possibility of empathetic understanding of the past. Linguistics. The father and pioneer of linguistics is Ferdinand de Saussure, Swiss linguist, posited that linguistic form is arbitrary and therefore that all languages function in a similar fashion. Published Mémoire sur les systèmes primitifs des voyelles dans les langues indo-européennes. Historical foundation of linguistics. It was the old Babylon who first created linguistic text called Sumerian. Hindu also created text called Vedas. The formal study of language began in India. It started with the formulation of 3,959 rules of Sanskrit morphology. Early interest in language in the West was a part of philosophy, not a grammatical description. Etymology. It is from the French word linguistique, which means language. Definition of linguistics. It is the science of language. It is the scientific study of language in a cultural context. It describes languages in their own merits. It is the systematic study of recorded and unrecorded languages all over the world. It deals with how culture affects language and vice versa. It provides insights and understanding on how people perceive themselves and the world around them. Branches of linguistics. Evolutionary linguistics traces the development of a language from its original form and pattern. Historical linguistics explores language changes and the relationships of language spoken by different ethnic groups and/or nationalities. Sociolinguistics looks at the relationship between linguistic variation and social structures. Psycholinguistics explores the imaginative functioning of the language in the mind. Neurolinguistics looks into the representation of the language in the brain. Anthropological linguistics explores how language and culture interact for the beneficial development in the society where the residents are the endeavors. Applied linguistics deals with the language-related issues as applied in everyday life, particularly on language policies, on lexicography and translation. Biolinguistics refers to the study of natural communication systems, in animals as compared to human-taught language. Clinical linguistics deals with the application of linguistics theory to the field of speech-language pathology. Linguistic typology explores the study of the common properties of diverse and related languages. Stylistics refers to the style of writing or manner of speaking suitable for an occasion relative to a variety of standard usage on literary style. Methods of inquiry in linguistics. Descriptive linguistics describes and explains features of language without making subjective judgments, or whether a particular feature or usage is good or bad. Prescriptive linguistics attempts to promote particular linguistics usages over others, often favoring a particular dialect. Political science. The father and pioneer of political science is Aristotle. He is a political scientist, laid down the foundation of governance and leadership. His contribution to the discourse had brought various philosophers to argue that politics is not just about the structure of a state, but also about civility, order, and organization in a state. He said man by nature is a political animal. He wrote the Politics. Historical foundation of political science. It was once part of the many related fields of study like philosophy, law, and economics. The theoretical and practical study of the state and politics began way back to the time of the ancient Greeks, about 500 to 300 BC. During the ancient times, men had formed basic social linkages, inherently persuaded by the needs to associate themselves to protect their survival and interests. Families came to organize collective unions, from simple bands to more organized associations, forming a village whose membership spanned to more than 100, that in the process ushered the birth of a city. The chieftain who headed a village was chosen from the ranks of leaders with the power to make laws, judge, and execute laws. The chiefdom became a state. Etymology. It is from the Greek word polis, which means city, state, and Latin word scire, which means to study. Definition of political science. It is the systematic study of state and government. It deals with those relations among men and groups which are subject to control by the state, with the relations of men and groups of men to the state itself, and with the relations of the state to other states. It is primarily concerned with the association of human beings into a body politic, or a political community that was organized under government and law. It is an attempt by systematic analysis to discover in the confusing data whatever principles may exist of wider and more general significance, not only about the state, its organ and institutions, but also other institutions or polities, as well as such as political attitudes of people and their leaders, controversial issues, and other aspects concerning the state's operation, powers, and functions. It is the study of government and political process, institutions, and behavior. Branches of political science. Public law, concerned chiefly on the law itself, including the organization of government, the limitation upon government authority, and the rules of government offices and public officials. Political theory, study of the development of varying political doctrines or thoughts from ancient, medieval to contemporary political philosophies, relating to the basis, origin, form and structure, political culture or behavior of the people in a state. International relations deals with the power relationship between or among states in the international community by pursuing the state's national or potential interest, primarily governed by foreign policies of the states and chiefly regulated by the persuasive laws governing the conduct of foreign relations among nation-states. Branches of political science. Number 4, public administration, deals with the system, processes, and dynamics of the management, operation, or administration of the affairs of the state, which include the entire gamut or branch of the executive, legislative, and judicial departments, both the institutions and employees, which include officials. Political philosophy sets forth the standards or principles of behavior or accepted code or policy of a particular society. Political dynamics refers to the courses which focus on forces at work in government and politics rather than on structures and institutions. Comparative government includes surveys of the governmental and political systems of Asia and the Pacific, Europe, and Latin America, among others. Methods of inquiry in political science. Historical method observes and analyzes carefully the facts of our history in order to understand the present condition together with the future course of political organization. Comparative method establishes the correlations of institutional factors working hand in hand with the state that affect a political phenomenon in understanding the science of politics. Scientific method refers to the formulation of general theory based on the tested hypotheses, which are derived from organized patterns of systematically arranged and collected relevant facts to a political problem. Inductive method draws political generalization on useful theories or insightful doctrines from basic or given facts. Deductive method deduces particular conclusions or explanations from probable yet steady premises in interpreting or appreciating a given political situation. Theoretical method uses political theories of ancient philosophers as models of understanding. Observational method employs the working of one's critical observation of a political situation and interprets it based on philosophical reflection. Psychology. The father and pioneer of psychology is Wilhelm Wundt, German psychologist, opened the Institute for Experimental Psychology at the University of Leipzig in Germany in 1879, argued that conscious mental states could be scientifically studied using introspection, separated psychology and physiology by analyzing the workings of the mind in a more structured way with the emphasis being on objective measurement and control, trained psychology students to make observations that were biased by personal interpretation or previous experience and used the results to develop a theory of conscious thought, wrote Principles of Physiological Psychology. Historical foundation of psychology. It has its roots in ancient Greek philosophy such as epistemology, metaphysics, religion, and Oriental philosophy. Its seeds were sown from natural sciences such as biology and physiology. Over the centuries, psychology and physiology became increasingly separated, resulting to the two conceptions of psychology that is phenomenological, experiential, and mechanistic, physiological. Etymology. It is from the Greek word psyche, which means soul, and logos, which means study. Definition of psychology: it is the study of the mind. It is the science of human behavior. Branches of psychology: general psychology explains the why and how people behave in a way under certain situation. Clinical psychology deals with scientific solution to a psychological problem. Abnormal psychology determines if a person has abnormalities. Evolutionary psychology focuses on psychological stimuli in human being. Cognitive psychology deals with capability to solve problems, which also includes like thinking, analyzing, memorizing, and many more. Legal psychology deals with handling psychological issues on legal matters. Education psychology deals with usual student problems like learning disorders, sex education, problems on adolescents, particularly shyness, and many more. Developmental psychology deals primarily with human growth and changes. Personality psychology deals with personality as determined using the subject's IQ. Methods of inquiry in psychology. Inspection method obtains data from the participants' feelings and experiences. Observation method examines records and analyzes the subject in the laboratory, classroom, or institution. Experimental method tests a theory by accurate trial of controlled situation. Survey method utilizes a questionnaire to obtain data from large group of sample. Empirical method obtains data by way of direct or indirect. Sociology and demography. Father pioneer Auguste Comte, French sociologist, coined the term sociology, advocated the application of scientific method to social life and positivism. Wrote course De Philosophie Positive, published from 1850 to 1842 in 6 volumes. Historical foundation of sociology and demography. The intellectual, scientific, and industrial revolutions which happened in Europe in the middle of the 19th century led to the development of sociology. The intellectual revolution opened new perspectives in society, which offered the people new principles, ideals, and beliefs, changing their outlook in life and the way they perceive themselves, their environment, and relations with fellow men. The scientific revolution empowered men to overcome their natural limitations and improve society. The revolutions in Europe brought rapid and radical changes, which resulted to social problems, issues, and social unrest, prompting some individuals to direct their attention and investigation of social phenomena. Etymology. It is from the Latin word socius, which means associate or companion, and Greek word logos, which means study. Definition of sociology. It is the scientific study of society. It concerns with social institutions, social life, community living, human interaction, group integration and dynamics, social roles and functions, social hierarchy, interrelationships and interdependence of men that give rise to a social structure and a social system, and the processes that lead to social change. It studies collective human behavior and social influence. It is the scientific study of man's behavior as a consequence of his being member of a social group. It is the scientific study of human society, its origin, structure, function, and direction. Branches of sociology. Social organization deals with social institutions, social stratification and mobility, social groups, and social relationships. Social psychology focuses on collective and deviant behavior, socialization, and social influences on personality. Social change studies the underlying principles, processes, and dynamics of social change and its social applications. Human ecology deals with the relationship and integration of human population with the natural environment. Population studies or demography deals with the study of the characteristics and growth of a population and its social implications. Social theory method formulates social theories and explains social phenomena for useful applications. Applied sociology involves the utilization of sociological research in solving problems and improving social conditions. Methods of inquiry in sociology. Evolutionary approach offers explanation how human groups come to exist, grow, and develop. It also looks for patterns of change. Interactionist approach suggests no grand theories of society, since society and social and political institutions are conceptual abstractions, and only people and their interactions can be studied directly. Functionalist approach views society as an organized network of cooperating groups operating orderly according to generally accepted norms. Conflict approach views society as one that is held together through the power of dominant groups. So according to Immanuel Kant, science is organized knowledge, wisdom is organized life. Thank you, everyone. I hope that you learned something. Thank you and God bless.